Hello, I'm going to say Ryan Walters here along with Michael Redmond at Suwon World Cup Stadium, where Suwon. Well, they did it, Michael. They finished, it was 4-0 today, and they decidedly won the FA Cup here in the second leg. Deserved result?
Well, I think 4-0 is a deserved result, obviously, but it was one of them. They got the first goal, and they just did not let Daejeon have an inch. They just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. There's many things to talk about, obviously, but 4-0, you can't complain in a cup final when you win 4-0. There's no talking bad points, so...
Yeah, it's hard to argue that they aren't deserved champions here today. Not without its controversies, however, because it was 1-0, and Daejeon Korail looked to have drawn level at 1-1, which with the away goals advantage would have had them as FA Cup champions at the time.
Would have been a completely different game if they equalised.
Chalked off for offside, which VAR apparently was consulted. You know, we're here at the stadium. We weren't able to watch too many of the replays, but we did see the ref go to his ear. Apparently VAR was consulted. Apparently they ruled that as offside. We've since seen some replays online. We've seen some screenshots online. It doesn't appear that goal was offside.
I'm very interested to see what the meaning behind that was to chalk that one off, because that looked completely onside. Because initially it was the cross at first, we thought that was offside, but then it was the header for the second chance, and both chances did look firmly onside, like comfortably onside.
Yeah.
So where they've got offside from that is very, very questionable.
Yep, but even if that's 1-1, well, I mean, you could argue the game would have went very differently had that been 1-1 at that point, but Suwon just absolutely was merciless, and as they should be here in a home leg of a two-legged final, which, you know, that's something else that we can touch on here, but they went on and scored again, and they were decided victors. The K-League 1 side eventually overseeing the National League side, which is the third division here. Our own Matthew Binns is coming in here asking how much did that robbed goal affect the game, and I think that completely changed the game. I think that took the wind out of the sails for Daejeon.
There was, how long was left? Was there 25 minutes left, 20 minutes
like
left when that goal went in? If that was 1-1 with 25 minutes to play, it would have been a completely different game, because as we said before in the pre-match, Suwon would have started chasing, they would have started panicking. It would have been a completely different game. That goal chalked off, don't get me wrong, you win a game 4-0, you've deserved it, but I'd like to have seen what it was like. It was a 1-1. I'd like to have seen what it would have been like.
Well, if we're talking about things that we would have liked to have seen, this year I think is the epitome of why the FA Cup needs to be a single leg. We had 0-0 and then we had 4-0. Let's get this down to a single final. Let's get it in a neutral ground, and then let's see what happens. Where I feel like Daejeon Korail is a bit hard done here. They did really well in their home leg. They held Suwon scoreless there. Completely undone here today. I think we talked about this pregame, and I think the pressure did get to them today. I think the pressure got to Korail because I think they saw that the FA Cup was so close that they could potentially get that, and they really looked panicked moving forward.
They had a really good 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes, they really pushed, and you thought, hang on a minute, we could have a game on here, because Daejeon took the game to Suwon in the first 10 minutes. But then Daejeon calmed down. Suwon, they calmed down. They thought, like, let's string some passes together. They got that goal, and then Daejeon didn't know what to do. They could not reply until the goal in the 65th minute, which was chalked off. Anyway, for the majority of the game, it was Suwon, but Daejeon, for the first 10 minutes, it looked like there was a final of 50-50 teams going up for it. So,
yeah, a bit of a shame to see the underdogs come up short there, but Suwon now with the most FA Cup titles of any K-League team. This was their 5th today. And we've talked about this a little bit before. The path here was probably favorable for them.
Let's not belittle any of the teams.
Power, Hwasong FC and Daejeon Korail in the final.
As we said, Korail had K1, K2 teams all the way through. Suwon had a nice little draw, so they did. So,
but that's not their fault. Suwon can only play the teams that are in front of them. That's the luck of the draw, and I think against Hwasong they were very lucky. To be frank, I think they were very lucky to get through. And today that was not the case. I think Daejeon got unlucky, obviously, so I think there was some luck involved for Suwon, but they looked much better today than I've seen them in the past 3 or 4 rounds of this FA Cup.
Well, I tell you now, Gusung Yup had a fantastic game.
Yes.
For Suwon, absolutely fantastic game. Not only scoring, well, it's 2 goals he scored. We thought the second goal wasn't his, but it was. But he was fantastic in pushing the ball forward and actually making them great plays to actually swing crosses in. Yeah. He was their MVP today in this game. He was great. He was fantastic, and I think he was the difference in this game. Why it wasn't just 1-0, it was 4-0 because of his presence.
Well, we talked so much about Adam Taggart before the game and how we figured that he would be the target man today, and he ended up getting subbed off for the second game in a row. Bit of an odd decision there, but Suwon gets it done without the Golden Boot leader. And do you think that says a lot about the depth of this team?
It worries me now. We were talking about this a little bit before. With Adam Taggart, now he's now got his silverware that we've said. They've subbed him off because he's not clicking with the game against Daejeon. Now we were talking about ACL next year because they've got ACL now.
They do
depth of squad. What's going to happen next year now? Because not only do you have the K-League, not only do you have the FA Cup, but now you've actually got the ACL to contend with. We've seen him not had a stellar year in the K-League, so what's going to happen now? Taggart, Golden Boot winner, Golden Boot contender so far. But what's going to happen now if he continues to play like that as such and have to get substituted off? Who's going to replace him? You need someone who's going to impact the game when you actually substitute somebody off the field.
If only Suwon had maybe like a veteran striker that they could have subbed on or something like that. Dejan Damjanovic not in the squad today. He will get his medal, and congrats to him and Adam Taggart and all of Suwon Samsung Bluewings on the medal.
Can I decide there's a fantastic team in Jamshore that would perfectly take him on, perfectly take Daejeon on.
I think, yes, the Seoul Eland would be extremely happy to see Daejeon plying his trade at Jamshore next year, but we're not here for that quite yet. But I think, there was a lot hinging on this match when it comes to ACL next year. We've talked a lot about maybe the 4th place team could get in there. Maybe that would be Daegu. Maybe that would be Seoul if they slip up. But now, 3rd place in K1 is extremely important. That's another very close race, just like the title race is extremely close. So we'll see if FC Seoul can hang on to that spot. And, well, you were talking about this a lot during the game. This is something that Suwon's going to kind of rub in the face of FC Seoul this year a little bit.
Well, look at this now. FC Seoul have had a great year compared to last year. Obviously, they were in the playoff relegation. We were all there last year watching that.
Yeah.
Now, they had that thing where it's like, actually, we're better than Suwon this year because we've done a lot better. But now Suwon have got an FA Cup title and an ACL place. Now, you have to beat Daegu in your last game of your season now to confirm that. But regardless, Suwon still have a medal, still have silverware. And FC Seoul now, for 2 years now, well, 3 years now, haven't had a sniff at anything, so a little salt in the wound there. Now Suwon fans can have a bit of bragging rights over Seoul, I personally think.
Definitely, and I think that silverware does speak volumes. And with that, Suwon is back in the ACL again. Adam Taggart will be there. We'll talk to him a little bit about that. Hopefully post-match, I'm going to try to run down there and talk to him afterwards. But Suwon back in ACL, and like you say, Michael, I think it's going to be It's going to be a very interesting off-season because Iam Sang said he would step down if they lost the FA Cup. Clearly that hasn't happened, so you would assume that he's going to be the man in charge. They really need to restock. They need to get some depth if they're going to be competing on 3 fronts, because look at Gyeongnam this year, a team that was competing on 3 fronts that wasn't necessarily used to it, wasn't ready for it, and they're on the verge of getting relegated. That would be far-fetched for Suwon in a lot of ways, but last year it would have been extremely far-fetched to think that FC Seoul would have been in the relegation playoff.
Well, I worry a bit for Suwon now. Now, if they get knocked out in the first round of the FA Cup, it's a completely different story because they've only got 2 competitions to focus on now. But we've seen worse things happen. If you look at in the past, your Songnams, your Busans, your Gwangju's even, the teams that are contenders up there at the top, when there's too many competitions and you do not have a team strong enough to field 3 competitions, you are going to struggle. Yeah. And especially in the K-League, when there's only 12 teams in the first team, like if you look at like other European leagues where there's 20 teams, 24 teams, it's okay to drop to 14th, 12th. it's not okay to drop here in K-League because
Right.
you're going to the second division.
Right.
So you've always got to bring your A game in every single game. So you've got to have a very strong team every single game you play.
Yeah. So a lot to celebrate here for Suwon today, and congratulations to them on this FA Cup run and on the title. But a lot of questions coming from it as well. So it'll be an interesting offseason for Suwon, and they're not done playing in K-League 1 yet. They still have a lot to play for in the league. Not for them necessarily, but they do have a game against JG United, who is in 12th place right now. So still some really interesting stuff coming up for Suwon, and as we talked about during the game, Adam Taggart's still going for that golden boot. So there's a lot for them to play for.
I mentioned, say, look, who do they have next? And when we found out it was JG United, are they going to have an FA Cup hangover, or are they just going to go strength to strength here? Hang on, we've won this FA Cup, let's go win another game. Because technically, this is the end of their season now. They can't get relegated. They've already won some silverware. This is Suwon be all and end all. They've finished 2019, but JG United's going to be an interesting tie, because if JG win that game, then wow, we've got a final game. We've got a final round. We've got a final round and a half there.
The last game of the season will be very interesting if JG can pull that one off. But in the meantime, I do need to try to get down there into the mix zone and see if we can speak with Adam Taggart and maybe a few other people about the FA Cup final. And then we're going to catch a bus back to Seoul, because there were 2 Seoul fans here for Suwon's FA Cup victory, which might... Well, Seoul Elan and sometimes FC Seoul, mainly Jeonnam Dragons, but yeah, show that off. Anyway, we'll be back after the international break, and we'll be covering the K2 playoffs. We'll be covering the last round of K1. We'll be hopefully down in Ulsan for Ulsan versus Jeonbuk, which is essentially going to decide the K1 title. All sorts of things coming up. The end of this season is just utterly fantastic. Obviously, we're always excited about it anyway, but this year, it's just delightful this year. But we know who the FA Cup winner is, and we're going to try to go talk to some of them. So, questions, comments, reactions, get them in here right now. But for the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon.